Wording.
Thank you. And
You are now the host.
okay, thank you. And I'm going to share the agenda first of all here. All right, so we call attendance. So I'm here, Knud. I can see Dominique is here. And Jim, we got Jim's there. Thank you. So we got a quorum. That's great. And we have public present. We have 2 at this point. Any changes to the agenda? So let me, I know that Diane has a hard deadline in 40 minutes, and so I put her first on the agenda. And then we're going to go through, if there's time, any updates on fuel system and lease updates. Any changes or suggestions for the agenda?
No.
No.
Okay, I would like to move that we approve the.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me really quick share the minutes from 2 weeks ago. So I can stop that one. February 2nd minutes. Let me zoom in a little bit so people can actually see. So it was the first I&F meeting we had in a while. So we were mainly looking into fuel system replacement and starting to prepare a presentation and prepare a complete study about the fuel system replacement. So I had kind of tried to set up a spreadsheet that broke down the cost and the costs that were independent of tank choice and location and things like that. So we went through and reviewed that. Terry did a presentation where he described the current system and also proposal he has received for a new integrated system. Phil could contribute that he is connected to Hunt and Son, or has talked to them, and they may have a used tank located in Modesto, 15,000. Somebody recommended we look into a grant for UST removal. I can quickly update. I looked into RUST, which is Water Resource Board of California. They do have grants. Whether they apply to special districts, I don't know. They apply to small businesses with less than 20 employees. They also have loans for small businesses to remove tanks. So the grants are between 3,000 and up to 70,000. The loans are up to 750,000 for replacing USTs. So I will dig into that some more and see if there's anything we can do there for special districts. Somebody recommended we check into Calaveras because they had supposedly a fairly, I talked to the airport manager at Calaveras, and she said that they got their above ground storage system when they moved from the old airport closer to downtown San Andreas to their new location. So it's more than 40 years old. So I don't think we can get any useful information about moving from underground to above ground from Calaveras County. She didn't have any information, at least. So. And then we decided to add ad hoc committees, which can operate a little faster for both the fuel system and the lease contracts that we would like to review. Then there was a proposal I made that the board, that's up for the next board meeting, that we transfer more money to the restricted maintenance account for the airport, given the CARES money that we received. And and Terry get an overview of the presentation to be made. And I think that's the one Diane is going to do in detail today, and the ad hoc committees. So don't know if there's any disagreement with the minutes. Otherwise, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes.
I second that.
Okay. Okay, I vote aye.
Aye.
Dominic, are you on board with that?
I said at the same time as Jim, realized I was muted, so yeah.
Okay, all right, that helped. Okay, thank you. That brings us to, oh, Terry is joining, so I forgot I'm the host right now. So let me go back to the share the minute here. All right, so public.
This is Phil, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway, so Diane can kind of get an idea of what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Talk to the paving company that I'm very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have been bought out by another company called Dryco, which is a large company that's throughout the United States. I got a budgetary bid from them for that steel coat, which is a slurry seal with small sand aggregate in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me a budgetary bid of around 20 cents a square foot at today's prices.
Okay.
We're not going to be ready for a year, so that price could fluctuate one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Take that 20 cents a square foot times 900,000 square feet, it comes up to about $180,000, which
Okay,
seems to be a reasonable amount. And when they do that, the squeegee machine that they use actually pushes that into any cracks that are there. So besides just a sealing of the street, it will also fill any cracks there as a secondary function, which is kind of nice. So that was one venue that I looked into, and they're more than happy to come out and talk with us.
Okay, good.
A second, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to ask, so that I was asked, does that require a crack seal first? But it sounds like that would pretty much take care of it at the same.
Since we've already crack sealed within the last few years, will suffice by going into what's already been sealed, and anything that's opened up or any additional cracks, it will seal that fairly well also.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
So as a secondary thing, I finally was able to get a hold of our fellow down there at Hunt Brothers on the tank. And he's been very busy, and that's why he hasn't got back with us. And they haven't been able to final up and firm up a deal on those 3 tanks yet.
Mm-hmm.
He did take, and I talked to him for about a half hour this morning. And there's the 2 15,000 gallon tanks, and there's a 12,000 gallon tank that's a convolt. And the convolt, I asked him for another budgetary number because they don't know how much they're going to have to pay for the tank. But where the tank sits now, cleaned, we're looking at about 20 grand for the 12,000 gallon convolt. And it's more expensive to move it, but it's just another option for us.
Mm-hmm.
Guessing around minus the concrete work that would have to be done and the electric work, about $100,000 turnkey. So that wouldn't be with another card reader. That would be with what we currently have. If we want to upgrade, it would be a little bit more money. But $100,000 to get us above ground tank.
Okay.
So he's willing to come out with the guy that removes the tanks here once we get a little farther along, and find out a little bit more information. Now, the concrete work with that convolt is going to require a little bit more concrete work. And it's going to be about 18 inches thick with 2 layers of rebar. He said number 4, but I probably would put in number 6 just because. The pad would have to be about 10 by 32, 33 feet. So you're only getting really not very much per yard. that the concrete may be $10,000, depending on concrete prices.
Okay.
To take and figure that out. I could do that real quickly while during the meeting here. I'm sorry I didn't do it beforehand. But
So how old is that tank, the 12,000?
I don't know, and that's one of the questions I asked him.
Okay,
He believed it was in like the 2004, 2005 neighborhood.
okay,
So it's about 15 years old. And obviously, if Calaveras is still using theirs 40 years after they installed it, that would give us 25 years if we just went to what they're doing. And I'm sure they're not ready to throw their tank away quite yet either.
all right,
And this is in Turlock is where the tank is.
mm-hmm,
So it's not by the ocean, and it's not somewhere where there's going to be a lot of salt water that would affect it. And the tank is being used up to maybe months ago.
okay.
Could be in
And
pretty
what's
good
in
shape.
it? Is it
Diesel
diesel
fuel.
it's being?
Probably diesel.
So
Either
it does
diesel or
have to be
gas.
cleaned, right? And
Yeah, and the 20,000 would include the cleaning because you can't move it when it has any fuel in it.
okay. And does it require a new internal coating of any kind for switching?
Well, he doesn't
that-
believe there's a requirement for us to take. The reason I was so adamant about getting the inside of the other tank coated is because of its location or where it had been.
Mm-hmm.
Being inland, I think, and being used recently, we're going to have to find out what Epic wants. And if Dominic can talk to Epic, see what they require.
Right.
If the interior of the tank is good and Epic doesn't require it to be coated, well, then we'd be in business.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing
Right.
by the time that we had this tank installed and running and the other tank out, we're $120,000. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, just how the cards fall when we're actually, these are just budgetary numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
Right.
all I have to report.
Okay, thank you for that, Phil. I appreciate your
Sure.
update. And all right. Any other public comments? I know Terry joined us. He'll remain on mute here, but so with that, I think we'll go on to old business. And Diane has been working on a presentation to the public describing the financial situation of the district as for the airport side and the streets. And what we are looking for is input from the district residents about what level they would like to maintain the airport and the streets at. So what we like to do today is Diane is going to give the initial presentation, and we have talked about calling a special board meeting so all the board members can pitch in, as well as the residents, of course. And so this is the first one, and what we would like to get out of today's meeting is for how long a period should we try to budget out, and what kind of inflation rate should we use going forward. So with that, Diane, sorry, I didn't want to take too much of your time. So please go ahead and you.
That's just fine. Okay. Do you want me to share my screen?
I
It
think
says
I can
host-
make, yes, I will make sure you can. Now you should be able to share. So I
Okay,
will
let me
stop
try
sharing.
again. Okay, desktop. Okay. Okay, just a minute. Unlock. Okay. Okay, so shoot.
It won't let you share. Uh-oh, I think we lost Diane.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll admit her back in again.
Well, you're getting Diane back. I figured the concrete about 45 yards.
Okay. Thank you. I'll update my spreadsheets with your number, Phil, so thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, it required that I relaunch to share my screen, so I
Oh,
will do
wow, okay.
so let me try that again. Now it's working.
Yeah, you can just share
Okay.
the application, but there you go. Perfect, yes.
There I go. Let's see. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. This is a casual meeting. What I wanted to do was run through it, and then we definitely want to get your comments. It is draft, which is bolded here, to walk through some of the proposal options that we'd like to discuss with the public. And we'll start out with just a bit about our district. Obviously, we are here. It's about who do we want to be, but I think that something that we can all begin with is we start by agreeing that we want to at least keep what we have. And some of the bullets on this screen are paraphrased from the CPAD vision and mission statement. But one of the one that is most relevant to our discussion today is the last one, which is we want to be self-sustainable, both financially and operationally. And, how can we do that? There are obviously several, infinite of options. So we're narrowing them down to get some feedback from the residents on what they'd like to see. This particular chart just shows a little bit about the complexity about how we're managed. As an airport district, our board is responsible for both the interests of the residents and the air park side, as well as the airport, both the users and the businesses. And for that, one of the important things that we need to keep in mind as we discuss this is there's a balance required as far as assessments and grants. So what we hear, because of the way that we're structured, which is very, very unique, what we often hear is from the air park side, well, we don't want to subsidize a public airport and the businesses that are there. But then at the same time, the public and the businesses and the people of the airport shouldn't subsidize the lifestyle that we have here at the air park, and that balance will be required for any grants. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind. The punchline here is we are not self-sustainable financially nor operationally, and this needs to be addressed. Just to ground you in what you're looking at in this chart is everything in this presentation. The green is the roads and the blue is for the airport. And so this shows our revenue on both sides. On the road side, the light green shows the bond repayments resurface. And so as residents, we're all paying for the road work that was done in 2009, and I believe it goes through 2029. And then the other revenue on that side would be the property tax, and you can see the difference there. And that's a small sum that is limited reserves for road work. So certainly not much for us to work with. And then on the right side, we have the airport revenue, and that would include, fuel and hangars and tie downs and transient parking and the like. And then on the bottom is really what we're talking about. We've got $25 a month for air park assessment. And very important side note, as this assessment has remained unchanged since 1995. So financial action is needed now. On the road side, while we're repaying for the resurfacing in 2009, we're essentially covering work that has already been done. So the way we're structured today, any future work for sealing would require additional funding, high interest bonds. There are ways to do that, but we need to address that. on the airport side, I mentioned $25 in 1995. I don't know where you were in 1995, but that was a long time ago. And if you go on any of these sites that will show you what that is, we would need $46 today just to keep up in inflation. So essentially, it's worth half of what it was. However, our expenses have been increasing and the like. So the equation is unsustainable. One of the challenges and unfortunate items in this area is that we are unable to meet the 10% requirement for grant money. So we don't have, if we had 10%, there is much that we could do for our airport side. So it's one of these items where if you gain this much, then all of a sudden you skyrocket up and you can handle a lot of the repairs. But without it, we have a state of slow deterioration. Slowly we're patching. It's like having a house. And gosh, I've got money, and I can, if my plumbing goes, I might be able to get that fixed, and I might be able to patch some holes. But God forbid if we lose our heater, or if we have to repair the roof, and we're just not able to do that. And so Measure P, a lot of hard work was put into this to address that, to increase the assessment from the current $25 to, it was an increase of $75 that went in for the proposal. And that was, the proposal was for it to be split. There's your gray that shows the addition that it would have been. So $25 on the roads, $75 for the airport. However, it did not pass. It was so close. And so it's one of those things, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. A lot of work was done there, and it was close. You look at the stats on the right side, we needed 67% to pass. We had a tremendous turnout, so that tells you people care. 62% in favor and 10 votes short. So what that tells us is, gosh, maybe with some slight adjustments, we could actually find a proposal that a majority of our residents would support. And so this was a brainchild of Terry. Terry came up with this, and some of the feedback from the Measure P was, gosh, we really don't understand how is this going to be used. And so Terry came up with this model that he shared previously on financial health to clearly outline the benefits. And I'm not going to review it here. You guys are all familiar with it. One of the other things that was proposed is to establish restricted reserve accounts and to make sure there's transparency for all of the residents for infrastructure and matching grants. So, so this is the model that we've used. And I think one of the previous board meetings that we had, there was, I don't know who said it. He said, hey, tell us, what does it cost? Let's say, what does it cost to move from tier to tier? And that's what this presentation does. So we're going to use Terry's model, and we're going to tell you, here's what it would cost to get from tier 0 to tier 1 to tier 2 on both the airport side and the street side. So here's where we are. Where do we start? On the airport side, we are at tier 1. And that means minor repairs. We can, it's short-term operations. We do not have reserves if something, for example, our fuel system, if something breaks, we don't have reserves to cover that. And tier 0 is we're paying down the debt. And so our streets, while we have some reserves, it's certainly not enough for a crack seal or a slurry seal. So that's where we're at. This is a summary chart. I've got backup over backup on specifics. And so I'm going to spend a little time on this chart. So when it starts at the bottom and it moves up. So at the bottom, we've got currently, and these are all the options that we laid out with costs. Obviously, there's lots of different variants that we could use, but the bottom is $25 assessment. We've got $25 right now going to the airport and 0 to the streets. And there was a financial model created by Terry that is very, very sophisticated. And, we use that for our business case. And should we continue with this, our district would be bankrupt by 2026. And I don't think anybody wants that. One of the options that we currently have on the table that Phil brought forth is, well, let's say we just double it. So that gives us really our inflation adjustment, and that would buy us 4 more years. And however, it's one of these, well, nothing's passed. The idea is, let's get something in there. We need money. And, but it does remain, we would remain non-sustainable. Some other options, let's say the air park residents want to move up a tier. So let's say for option A, we're moving the streets from tier 0 to tier 1 and the airport from tier 1 to tier 2. And we could do that for an additional $60, and we would be 50%, $30 to the streets and $30 to the airport. And then the option B, which would be our top one that we're presenting here, would be what would it take to bring the streets up to tier 2 as well. So moving the streets from tier 0 to tier 2 and the airport from 1 to 2 tier 2. And that would be, we would have $125 split, $75 to the streets and $30 to the airport. So I love this chart. There's, folks, we are $25 is almost a ridiculous amount. And I think all of us have friends and family in any homeowners association that are paying. And here at California, I looked it up, our California average is between $200 and $300 for HOA. And that doesn't mean an airport. That means somebody's, it could be they're mowing your lawn. And our California range for homeowners is $100 to $1,000. We're even below the low of the range. So you can see on here on the bottom, our current one is way to the left. Our deferral is a little closer. Option A is still below the bottom. Option B is still below the California average. And then I put as a comp in here, and we could add more, is Alpine Air Park, which is about $250 and the average they pay. And that brings us to the end of the proposal. And so what as we were talking about, we're recommending a special board meeting. We'd like to get community input. We'd like to get input from this committee on the options. They're certainly not set in stone. We're saying, for example, add $60 for option A. It could be 55, it could be 65. But we've got three options on the table: the deferral, the option A, which is a $60 split equally between airport and road, and option B, which would be increase it by $100 a month with 30 to the airport and 70 to the streets. And so one other thing that's worth mentioning is that this is not just for the air park. We also have a committee that ad hoc committee to look at the airport side and what makes sense as far as hangar and tie downs, as far as bringing the income in line with the market and demand, and doing that at the same time to get that balance that we talked about. And then the last one is just to make sure that we have committees with input for the street strategy and the fuel system to make sure that everybody who wants to be involved can be. And I don't know, did I do that in 10, 15 minutes? I'll stop.
Very well done.
And,
thank you so much, Diane.
yeah.
That was, I think it's a very nice way to present it, and I don't think we've had anything that so clearly presented it before, and there's more focus on the street side. So thank you so much. I guess I'll open it up for anybody who has comments on it that are able to speak in this meeting here about again, as Diane said, I think we'll like to call a special board meeting to review, and we want to have a public meeting where this material gets presented to get a feel for the level that the residents are willing to.
You know,
So-
one thing that I suggest is really reaching out to the people that voted no.
Mhm.
And we really want to have the discussion. We're not trying to pitch. We want to hear what your concerns are, you know, why you voted no. Maybe some people will just never vote yes. Maybe it is they had some misinformation. Maybe some of the new pieces that we're proposing will resonate with them and they'll vote yes. And that's what we're trying to get a sense of that, because we really only need 10 people to say, hey, wait a minute. I like what I'm hearing now.
Agreed. Thank
Yeah.
you. Other
Any
feedback,
thoughts?
please?
Yeah.
I think that looked really good, Diane. Thank you. I like the graphics, right? The graphics say a
Yeah,
lot, right?
my garanimals. Yeah, it's a little of my background. I did board presentations and for executive comms in the Bay Area.
You have to
and
dumb it
it's just-
down for the executives, right?
Well, it's not that. It's just it's complicated, and
Yeah, it is.
and many
Yeah.
people are visual learners,
Yep.
so
yep.
they can take it in more quickly. But thank you.
Yes, I agree. I think at high levels a lot. The model below it all that Terry has developed is amazing, right?
It is
It,
amazing.
but it's kind of hard to present in a meeting, and I think as it shows that you have that experience on presenting information at a good level.
Yeah, I agree
And-
that, you know, when you have a very detailed, you have to have a very detailed, you know, plan and evaluation, right? But
Right.
the only way you understand that is spend hours kind of digging through it to understand all the details and how it interacts with everything else. And
Right.
it's, we really have to have that boiled down summary to kind
And
of
it
bring out the
allows
highlights.
for playing with a lot of parameters and different projects that people want to include. So we
Mhm.
have that. Other comments?
Yeah, the plan that I came up with, the one that would help us out for 4 years, there's 2.1 part of that plan. Now, the original plan was just to double the fees. And then I think it was a couple of meetings ago, we talked about doubling the fees and then a one-time $2,000 assessment. So that would, I don't know if we're still there or not.
I don't think
I
it's
got it.
ruled out at this point. And
I got some weird thing on my screen.
oh, sorry. Oh,
Anyway, I don't know if I'm still there or not.
We can see you.
Okay, I can't see anything on my screen, but anyway, let's see, maybe try, I go to the bottom. And I don't have to be seen, it's probably, but if we took that $2,000 per lot per assessment, that would be 120 lots, that would give us $240,000 on a one-shot deal, which would resurface the streets per the bid I just recently got. At 20 cents a square foot, that comes out to $180,000. And if we did the $2,000 shot, that would give us approximately $240,000. So that would give us $60,000 buffer. And then the additional fees would help support adding money to those coffers as time went on. If we do a monthly or a yearly assessment, it would still be years before we could afford to address the streets, because we would be starting at basically ground zero and then having to accumulate the money before we could have the streets addressed. So that's 2.1, Phil 2.1 of,
Yeah.
okay.
Does the I have a question. Does the one-time assessment follow the same process? And is it still a 2/3 vote, or is
No.
it different? Okay.
51%.
Okay.
So that's another advantage where 51% could take and go for that assessment, which would be almost a for sure to pass. And the $200 or the $300 a year doubling, that would still need the 2/3. But I think that would pass also. So you'd basically be getting everything you want
Mm,
with a reasonable amount of people voting yes. And like you said, some people will never vote yes, no matter what.
mhm.
So this way we could take and move forward, get the streets sealed, and we would have money to start working on an account. We would have the $60,000 to start an account for a second resealing in 5 or 6 years. And if we added money from that doubling, we would have the money to do that again. So it kind of is a self-sustaining venture. By doing that, we're moving forward. If we come up with something that is very expensive, in other words, we're going up by 400%, and that gets voted down, then we're that much farther back where we would not be able to move forward on anything. So that's my concern. If we do this again and it takes us 12 or 14 months to move forward, and during that time it's voted down, back to square one and having to start all over again. With this, we could move ahead next year with a one-time assessment and get something done within the next 18 months.
Now, is the one-time assessment through the November election as well? Or
Yes.
Didn't that be outside? It is, okay.
Yes. So that voted yes, we would be able to have that on the January tax or maybe the December tax bill. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to move that over there, but for sure, the April tax bill, it could be on.
Yeah.
So that means we could move ahead. Within 12 months, we would be getting some funding.
Phil, it sounds like the proposal you're making is similar to the street, but I think that was completely independent of the election, wasn't it? Wasn't that done through an independent law firm or something like that had to tally the votes? And
I think we looked into doing that, and that was $1,000 or something to do that.
mm-hmm.
And we could do that anytime.
Okay. Yeah.
But the thing is if you're going to do a ongoing assessment that I believe has to be done through the election process, you possibly could get it done with a special vote. But it's like when we wanted to do that last year, people were against paying the $1,000 to have that vote taken.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
what I'm trying to do is get something moving.
Yep. Okay.
So would the $2,000 would take care of the roads, and then the doubling of the assessment would be for the airport, or
50% for the airport and 50% for the roads.
and does 50% for the airport make the airport sustainable?
We'd have to run the numbers.
Yeah, I
I
don't know exactly what the plans are, and then there's other things when you're talking about being sustainable. What are our plans for the airport? We have 6 or 8 hangars that we rent, and there's the tie downs, which we've sold off enough of the airport to make it almost impossible to make it sustainable, self-sustaining, except for the fuel sales and things like that. So
That's what the assessment's for, though. is
Right.
to
Well,
make
we
it
we
sustainable.
can make it sustainable, and yes, we've sold
Sure.
off a lot of property. But there, yeah, and the idea is to raise the rents on those hangars as well.
sure.
But that's right. So we can change the proposals any way we want to, and that's the idea of this meeting, is to get some feedback and tweak them for some options that we think, and then find out what we think the people will pass.
Well, my concern is, since I've been here about 18 or 19 years, that they've tried to increase these fees multiple times. and it's fixed
Yep.
every time. And I'm kind of a pessimist, so you have to excuse me, but I would rather put through something that we think will pass than take the chance on hoping this next thing will pass and it doesn't.
I agree. Obviously, none of us want it to fail. I think we do need to get some feedback from others that voted no, and
Sure.
see and see what they tell us. Let's float your option along with what did you call it, the other? And
2.1.
2.1.
Yeah, I'm calling it 2.1.
I would suggest let's go ahead and then adjust that one to be 2.1 and see if we can get some of these folks to come join us and have a discussion. And we're so close. We can do it.
Very good. Thank you. Any other inputs? See if we have more people joining.
Yeah.
Let's discuss then, Diane, real quick. So we talked about what time frame are we looking for the model that goes for sustainability and projects. So I think it's been proposed that we plan about 20 years out and model that, and then what kind of inflation rate we should use. So I took a study as well over the last 20 years, since 2000 up to and including 2022 today. The average for the 23-year period is about 2.5%. I know it's going up right now, but we would expect, hopefully it goes down again over the future here. But so a 20-year average is about 2.5%. So if we use that in the model or something like that, I don't know if there's any other input on that.
That was from just what we paid for from the district? Or was
Sorry about that, Jim. Oh, the
so-
inflation rate, you mean?
Yeah. What
That's
data-
with the official data, I guess. It's got nothing to do with the airport district.
Okay, all right,
I
okay.
just looked at the cost of living or inflation rate. So if you look at that in general, it's 2.5. I haven't looked at the airport specifically about what the increase of cost has been. So
Okay.
One of the things that we have coming up in 7 years is the full payment of that bond.
yeah,
And at that time, even before that, we could take and make some arrangements.
yes,
We take maybe and cut that amount in half, use that towards the airport after we can show the people that are paying the money how we're judiciously using their money.
Right.
And I think
yes.
that
Go ahead.
that has bothered many of the no voters that have been around since the Hanger Vale incident, that has a lot of people worried.
Yeah, I know. I think we have discussed that there is that opportunity in 7 years, right, to do something. And of course, we need to survive until then. So that is a good point, and we have looked into that possibility as well. And I'm sorry I can't do anything about the 20 years ago. I think we've been pretty. I mean, the people have volunteered a lot over the last few years here, right? So I'm covering for missing airport managers in 4 months initially, and then 3 months. So there's a lot of money being saved, and we have not started any new projects, right, for which we didn't know we had any funding for. So financially, I think the district is okay, but it's just that we are not maintaining things right. So the infrastructure is deteriorating as we are moving forward. But yeah, I agree with I think it's maybe even just 6 years, because we already saved up for the last year payment. So, but anyway, there is that opportunity coming up in 6 to 7 years.
I don't quite understand what that opportunity is.
Well, it is that people are now paying $900 a year or $75 a month to pay off the bond that was done in 2009, right? And that goes away in 2029. And so I think when people are not paying that amount, could we then propose an assessment, right, that would save
Okay.
up money for future projects at the streets or the airport, right?
Okay, but it would have to be a totally separate assessment. Okay. I
Yes,
kind of got
exactly.
the
Yeah.
impression that it was a
No, it's not
refinance
gonna.
to use
It's not gonna
money or
continue.
something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it'll be taken off people's property tax bill when it comes to 2029, right? And then
Okay.
I think the opportunity the district has is to propose that
You
we
backfill that with something that
backfill,
we need to make it sustainable, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
you're going from 900 a year to plus the
So-
300 a year to 900 a year. So you're saving money, but
Yeah.
it might be sustainable at that point.
Exactly. That's what was meant. So
Okay.
paying it forward instead of paying backwards on it. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to need to drop off, but I'll
Yes.
just, if we can work offline and you can give me any kind of feedback and I'll update the presentation. I'm not wed to any of these options. I really just
Right.
want the best one to move forward. So,
Well, this was the idea, to get some. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Diane. I appreciate it very much that you did the presentation. So
so thank you. And thank you to this committee. And let me know what your feedback is. We'll tweak it and then figure out what our next steps are.
okay, thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Okay. Are there any other feedback on?
Did you send
What-
out that presentation? I might have missed it if you did.
I did not, but I can do that. So
Okay.
I will make sure I send it out. Sorry about that. Any other comments? So the goal there is, again, that we have an opportunity for another measure on the November ballot. And in order to meet the deadlines for that, we have to, I think the latest will be the board meeting in March to decide that we are moving ahead. But we have a schedule in place, so I don't think I have that ready to review today. But that is the thought of the committee, as well as what Terry and I have discussed that we would like to propose a measure for whatever amount it may be, from what Phil proposes to what Diane proposed. So with that, let's close on that one. The other one of old business is, so Jim, you are here today. One we carried forward from last year was about monthly updates to district residents. I know you talked about you were going to look at that somewhat, but I don't know if you had a chance to look at that, or if there's any updates on that front.
No,
I
I haven't really.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep it on the agenda for now and see what we can do going forward.
Yeah.
So I can
I'm
try and
not-
help you.
I'm not the social media wizard.
Right. Exactly.
But I kind of think that would help things. if
Yes.
we had one.
Okay. So last I&F meeting 2 weeks ago, we talked about creating the ad hoc committee for fuel system replacement, hang on tie down lease, and then Diane just mentioned the street committee. So Terry sent out a notice for the district yesterday soliciting members for these committees. And I think last time, I hope that's okay, Phil, I asked you, did you want to be on the fuel system committee, or would you?
Yeah, that's
prefer-
fine.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so I wasn't sure I understood you correctly. You said you would definitely look into the tanks for the hunt, but we'd love to have you
Yes.
on
Yeah,
board the committee as well.
I'd like to be on the committee on that one.
Okay, great. So we'll have
Hanger.
some,
The hanger and tie down one, I'm too close to many of the renters. And so
yes, me too. So I
it's
have to,
appropriate that I be on that.
the same here. So we will find other members for that one. And for the street one, again, if you don't want to sign up here, let Dominique know. He will collect whoever signs up for any of these committees.
I'll be on the street one too.
Okay, great. So Dominic, you're taking note of this as well, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So little fuel system update too. I promised last time I would look into what are the savings going from an underground fuel system to an above ground storage tank. And going through the last 2 fiscal years, as well as the current fiscal year, as far as we are, it looks like the fees and inspections cost about $4,500 to $5,000 a year. So that's one saving that we will get from getting the tank out of the ground. And permits, looks like we will save about $1,500 to the county a year for an above ground storage tank. If I look at the repairs that we have done that are purely because it's an underground storage tank, like the containment walls and the water leaking into, not the tank, but the manholes, we've spent, this year alone, we've spent over $5,000 repairing just one of those fiberglass containments, and they're all in not the best shape. So that would be another saving that would be from going above ground. And we have those annual and triannual inspections where they fill up these manholes with water. And if they detect leaks at those, that's when we run into these $5,000 repairs. And we had one of those this year. Insurance, that are liability insurance for underground tanks, is about $1,600 to $2,000 a year. And the phone line, we believe we can, that's not really related to it, but when we get a new point of sale system, which is going to be internet based or cell phone based, there's going to be a saving of about $1,300 a year for landline. So totaling that up, the savings that I come up with for getting the tank above ground is going to be about $11,400 to $14,000 a year is the savings of getting rid of an underground storage tank. So I hope that makes something. I think Terry in his model has been about 10,000, which might be kind of on the low end of what the savings are.
So Canute, just
Yeah.
I did some math here in my head. With that benefit of that savings, if we were paying $1,000 a month, it's the financing minus interest, because we maybe can get some low interest, very low interest loans. It would be about 8.5 years to pay off $100,000 loan.
Yeah, that's all.
So in 8 years, say 9 years, to make the math easier, we would pay off the cost of the new tank, or of $100,000 tank.
Yeah, but what about removal of the old one? I know you say that they might be willing to do that for free, but we haven't actually gotten a estimate, a budgetary estimate for that. It's going to be free to remove the underground tank. Right?
We would have to pay for the excavation, but it appears that they're willing to pay. And I mean, until they're here with the crane and saying we're going to take it, I can't guarantee anything.
Right.
Seem to have someone that is willing to take that tank and maybe pay for some of the crane rental to take that tank out and away. Now, the only thing that would take and affect that is if there had been any spilled fuel, where you'd have to take additional measures to address that.
Well, I think you talk about
out.
being financially responsible, right? We can't just start and then all of a sudden we stand there and we assume that we have money to do it right.
Right. I think that we would take and have someone to probably within some type of contract, willing to say that we're willing to take the tank for free and do the trucking.
Okay.
Train it out.
Yeah, I agree. We should have a contract on it. We can't just assume that it's going to happen, right? So
right.
Okay,
but I think until we get farther down the pipeline, I'm going to have to take somebody's word. And it was the same thing with the purchase of a tank or some of the services. Until you get into contractual stages, you almost got to take them at their word, because if you get into a contract and then they say, "No, I just decided to change my mind," well, then things have to change at that point.
Right. Sounds good. All right, so I'm hoping that soon we can start the meetings with the ad hoc committees and make some faster progress on this. And thank you to the people that have signed up to work on this. And with that, is there any last comments from anyone? All right, then I think I would like to adjourn the meeting here at 4:55 p.m. So,
Sorry, I was
go-
muted. I was trying
okay,
to
go
say
ahead, Jim. Sorry, I'll recall that adjournment. Go ahead.
So I know you guys doing a lot of work in the background on, the plans and the cost estimates and what the different options are.
Right.
But is there really kind of a high level plan at all about, how to evaluate these options against each other, for cost and risk and, multiple variables, right? To I guess what I'm asking is, kind of the project management part of it, right? What really needs to happen to get everything completed, right?
Right.
Like I said, you guys have done a bunch of great work on, figuring out all the details for the different types of solutions that are out there for the fuel system, right?
Mhm.
But is there, I guess I'm making a suggestion, right? That we should probably, if there isn't one, have some high level plan that talks about all of these kind of together, and what's the path to select a plan and then
Right.
execute. And obviously you've got to have a bunch of details for each one of those options before you can figure out which direction that we need to go.
No, that is a good point. We don't have a project manager as of this point, right? So as you said, we have solicited and gotten some proposals from engineering company to what the locations are and what would the cost be at different locations. Like if we move the tanks to the tie down area, then we would need to install lighting, and we would need to ensure that there's power at that location. So
Right.
those are some of the things that would be different for that location, right? And the current location, it would depend a lot on what the county would approve about the location of the tank as to the property line and the fuel shed, for example. So, and yeah, so there's a lot of uncertainty, and I would say I'm hoping with the ad hoc committee we can move a little faster and get some of these things nailed down. And
Right.
and as you said, we probably need a project manager on this as well. So
Right.
I think
Right.
the
Okay.
time we have to replace it is probably beginning to get limited within a few years, right? So,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so you can put my name down for that.
Okay.
ad hoc. I'm not sure how much time I'll have to do real work on it, but
you would like to be part of the fuel system
Yeah.
one, is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you, Jim. Okay. Any other input? Okay, so let's adjourn then at 4:58 p.m. And thank you so much, everyone, for all the work you're putting into this and attending the meeting here.
yeah.
So-
Thank you, Knut.
Thank you.